So today we're going to be looking at, and the resources I provided you look at models of disciplines in school, and then also we're going to be spending time, particularly in this PowerPoint, looking at your improvement science projects and where you can go to find resources to help you identify what your potential change is going to be for your practice. Now, just as a review from the instruction sheet, for this models of discipline in school, so the Alfie Kohn reading, and really this whole course is centered around this idea of looking at critiquing and unpacking guidance systems in classrooms, or models of discipline as it's also been called, or management systems. There's lots of many ways that we can term this field of study. And to really situate Alfie Kohn's book in the history, and particularly recent history from the mid-20th century on, I've given you this link to this podcast from American Radio Works. It's also on your instruction sheet, and I'm asking that you listen to it. It's a really fabulous overview of the history of where we are today, and it'll help you when you're reading Alfie Kohn's work to understand what are some of his critiques of what have been what he calls traditional systems of management or discipline. There's also a handout on D2L that summarizes influential classroom guidance or classroom management theories and theorists. And there are three main areas of research that have come out of the study of classroom guidance. One has to do with psychological factors for student misbehavior. The second looks at rewards and punishment, and particularly behavior reinforcement type of theories. And the third is child-centered or learner-centered theories. So this handout will probably be a review for many of you in some ways, but I think it's nice to have a little bit of background in Alfie Kohn talks a lot about assertive discipline and about PBIS, but it's nice to have this handout summarizes what many of those theories and theorists are, and what they really argued and what they recommended for teachers, so that we all have a common language when we're reading this book and moving forward. So please listen to the podcast and also review the handout. That way you are better prepared to understand the context of what Alfie Kohn is talking about. Now today, I'm really going to be spending the bulk of this short presentation looking at how to identify literature and resources for your improvement science project. And you all have identified your focus. So you've looked at your problem of practice, and then you've made your fishbone diagrams and really identified one or two causes that you think could be potentially driving this problem of practice, potentially creating this effect that you think you could change, and hopefully change what the effect is. So now that you've really focused in on your problem of practice and your causes, we're going to look at, okay, so now I know what the issue is, but how am I going to figure out what I want to change, right? What are some ideas and strategies out there? And the whole point of doing these annotated bibliographies is because pretty much anything that comes up in the classroom has probably happened to another teacher in the past, right? So there are lots of there's lots of research and lots of resources out there that you can turn to for more information. And I'm hoping that through this annotated bibliography work, and then also talking to colleagues and students and other people in your lives, that you'll have the opportunity to say, oh, this is the thing that I want to do when I go into my do phase of my PDSA. This is what I wanted. This is the change that I want to make in my practice. So we're focusing on that red part of the plan cycle, asking questions of yourself, talking to your colleagues, and the literature that's already out there. And for the annotated bibliography, I'm asking you to find at least 5 articles or that all are centered around what your focus area is, and hopefully have some sort of strategies in there to help you identify potential changes that you can make. However, you can also talk to, as I said, colleagues, administrators, we could do some self-reflection to hopefully get some ideas of what you would like to change. So you have the ability to look at multiple resources. I'm going to focus today on writing up your annotated bibliography, because that's the next piece that's going to be due. Now, this is all about seeing what's already been done out there, what's already out there, to make a plan of action. And I thought I would spend just a little bit of time today talking about the PSU library. I'm sure many of you all of you are familiar with library research, and I just wanted to give you some tips that might help you refine your search. So when you go to the PSU library, you can see on the screenshot here, it'll come up with this search bar where you can search for books, articles, and more. You can absolutely use this. However, if you aren't planning on coming to campus, if you are some distance away, maybe you don't want to look for books or print articles or microfiche that you'd have to come in and see. There's a way that you can actually go and just look at things that are available online, and particularly articles that are available online. And I'm focusing in on articles because we have a 5-week course, and you don't have a whole lot of extra time, I'm sure, to do read entire books outside of the Alfie Kohn book. So articles are a really nice way to get a feel for what's out there, get some strategies, and then also find some more references. So what you can do is, if you go up to that top little drop-down menu where it says Research Tools and Collections and hover over it, you'll see this white drop-down bar appear. And in there they have, you can see the little blue arrows pointing to databases and articles. This is where I start any search at the PSU library. So when you click on that, you will get a screen that shows up that looks like this, and I go right to the E, you can see on the alphabet bar on the top, and I'm looking for EBSCOhost. EBSCOhost is an excellent conglomeration of multiple different journals and indexes, particularly for the humanities, and in our case, particularly for education. So if you're searching through all these databases and articles, it's nice just to be able to focus in on the education-related databases. So when you click on EBSCOhost, you get a huge screen of blue and white different indexes and sort of databases that you can click on. I recommend selecting Education Research Complete, you can see it on the top here, ERIC, and then the Teacher Reference Center. Education Research Complete and ERIC will give you lots of fabulous research-based articles of things that researchers and scholars have done in the field, or things that they've documented. Which sometimes gives you really great information. However, I also like Teacher Reference Center because sometimes you don't always necessarily, you're not going to get strategies all the time from these research articles. So Teacher Reference Center is actually articles written by practitioners. So they're written by teachers, written by administrators about what they've done in their own classroom. So I like to include all 3 of those because I find that they can sometimes give you a nice variety, and that way you can start picking strategies or potential areas of change that you want to do in your own classroom. Now, once I've clicked on those 3 and clicked continue, you come up with a search bar page that looks something like this. And you'll see at the top there are 3, there's a search bar, and there's actually 2 right underneath it that get covered by my drop-down menu. But that's where you can start to type in your keywords. Now, a couple of things here that you probably already know, but I just wanted to remind you. When you start typing in that search bar, you'll get this drop-down menu of a lot of different choices. So originally, when I was thinking about the keywords I wanted to use, I just thought of online education. However, as you all know from previous library research, sometimes what I think of as the keyword isn't what everyone else is using in the field. So I might miss a whole field of articles because I'm just not using the right keyword. So the nice thing is that in these drop-down menus, it kind of gives you the or. So you can see here my blue arrows pointing to online education or online learning or distance learning. So these things are not terms that I would necessarily have thought of originally, but since I see it here, that's the one I'm going to click on so I can expand the number of articles and the number of hits I get. Then also, whenever I'm starting, the bottom 2 blue arrows, I always like to click on the choice that says apply related words. So this is where EBSCOhost will take my keyword, but then also search for other keywords that are related to what I've searched for. And then I also like to click on allow search for search within the full text of the article. So if you don't allow full search text, full text search, sometimes it'll just search the title and the abstract, which is fabulous if you have the right keywords. But if you're just kind of getting started in this field, you're not really sure how everybody talks about it, what all those keywords could be, it's nice to be able to have them to search within the full text of the article. That way you can get more choices. Now sometimes this can be too many choices and you may want to unclick these bottom 2 boxes, but I always like to do it just to start to see what I get. So from there, so I have online education. also put in student engagement and discussion boards because I wanted to really focus in on, like I said, student engagement with discussion boards. And once I hit search here, you can see I came up with 1,328 articles, which is probably too much, which is definitely too much, I should say. But you can see the second one that I have the blue arrow on, active learning, engaging students to maximize learning in an online course. This is pretty much what I'm looking for, right? I think this would be a fabulous article for me to look at. And then from there, I would go in and read the abstract. And specifically in the abstract, it says strategies for engaging students in online course. So this is definitely an article that I want to look more closely at. Now, once you have your first article, this is just a little tip that you probably already know, but it's nice to, one, look through all of the headings because sometimes they have keywords in there that you don't think of. So for example, in this article, the online course was not one that I had thought of adding that word course in there, but then when I do a further search and I put in online course, I was able to really refine my search down to ones that just focus on individual courses and things that I as the teacher could do for those individual courses. The other thing to look at besides the headings is also look at your references. So this article is actually from 2017, which is very recent, which is fabulous. So the references that this author cites are going to be hopefully more recent, more current, and more related to what I want. So if I found an article from 1993, I may not want to look at their references because, let's be honest, the technology has changed so much since 1993. I'm not even sure how applicable it would be to what I'm looking at now. But since this one's from 2017, I can look through the references, and I already have a whole list of possible other articles that I could include in my annotated bibliography that this author has cited. So then I could start looking at those to see, is this something that would be useful for me or not? So those are just some tips. Again, I went to the PSU library page. I went to articles and databases in the drop-down menu. I specifically selected EBSCOhost. And then I selected my three databases that I wanted to look at: the Teacher Reference Center, the ERIC, and the Education Complete. And then I just started typing in my keywords, and I started looking at what came up. Now, from there, you're going to find your 5 articles that you're going to do your annotated bibliography on. However, before we talk a little bit more about annotated bibliography, I did want to give you just a couple other resources. So on the top here, you can see there's a keyword video from the PSU librarians. It's a great short video. You use it as a resource if you would like, and they've posted it right to YouTube. And if you're having trouble when you're getting too many things in your searches, or you're just getting 1 or 2 articles, I highly recommend looking at this keyword video because they give you some nice tips on how you can really perfect the keywords that you put into your database search. And then also, if you're still having trouble, I wanted to point out at the top of every PSU page, there's this little icon that says Ask a Librarian, and this is a chat function where you click on it and then a pop-up window pops up, and you can ask them a question directly. So if you're having a problem finding something, you can actually talk to the librarian and say, hey, can you help me think of a keyword for this, or do you have a recommendation of a journal I could look at? They are fabulous resources. I highly recommend it, and they're available 24/7. So it's a great resource for you to use. So whether or not you use the PSU library search engine or you use some other search engine, the expectation is that you are going to collect at least 5 articles. These can be practitioner articles from teachers and administrators. They can be research articles. And you're going to, but I want to emphasize that I want you to you want to be looking for articles that will specifically help you think of a change that you want to make to your classroom practice. So once you have your 5 articles, you're going to need to read and summarize the articles to start identifying your plan for change. So this is that gathering resources piece, right? We go out there and see what people have written out about. You can also talk to colleagues as well. But this annotated bibliography is really looking at all of those resources and kind of putting them down on paper so you can start making your plan for change. Now, there are 2 formats, and this is all from the syllabus for these annotated bibliographies. And there's the research articles and the non-research articles. And this these 2 formats right here are directly from the syllabus. What I'm asking you to do for either research or non-research is to give me the complete APA citation. And then for the research articles, and again, you can type this in bullets. You can do these in short paragraphs. This is not meant to be a page for each article. These are very short summaries of what you're taking away from these articles. So for the research articles, you're going to do your citation. You're going to talk about the focus of the research questions if there are any. You're going to include the design of the study. So what did they follow? How did they collect data? Just a little sentence on that. Are they looking at elementary or secondary students? Are they looking at teachers? Just a little more information about who this is what this study is all about. Then you're going to summarize the key findings of the research. What are those big takeaway points that you found? And then how is this going to help you with your next steps? So you've read through this article. Is it helping you think about a change you want to make? Is it helping you think about something you definitely don't want to do? Just kind of apply it to your problem of practice. Now, for non-research articles, or what could also be called conceptual articles, these are anything where it doesn't involve research. It could be anything. It could be, a teacher's editorial about how they decided to change their management or their guidance system. It could be maybe something like the Alfie Kohn book, where he's not always talking about things that he did in classrooms, but it's more, this is what he thinks about what should be done in classrooms. It could be any of those things. So again, you're going to include the APA citation. You're going to identify the framing question or argument in this article. So what are they really trying to say here? You're going to talk about their central claims, how they back up that argument. And then, again, summarize what you took from this article and describe how this will help you plan your next steps. So, again, it's all in aid of you thinking about that change that you're going to make in your practice. So you're going to have 5 separate citations. And I do not have a preference on how many research versus how many non-research. You'll decide what is going to be the most useful for you in identifying your change. Now, also in the syllabus, it says at the bottom that you can also include, if you talk to, say, a colleague or a co-teacher or a parent, and they have a really great idea, just write a sentence or two at the bottom and say, oh yeah, I talked to, the teacher next door to me, and this is what they suggested. I'm going to think about it. It doesn't have to be long, but really all of those resources that you've gathered, I would just like to see kind of where you're thinking right now, and then potentially I can give you some more recommendations about things that you might want to think about for your potential change in your practice. So that's the annotated bibliography, and that takes us to your homework. So as you can see here, you have your annotated bibliography due, and again, I don't mind if you decide to do short paragraph summaries, or if you just want to do bulleted list summaries for each. This is really for you just to start seeing what's out there and getting some ideas for your plan. You also have your Alfie Kohn readings, chapters 3 and 4, and there's a question there to guide your reflection, but really it's you taking the time to think about what is resonating with you with this book. You'll have your own answer due by Thursday, and then you comment on at least 2 of your peers' responses by Sunday. And I look forward to seeing what all of you think.